It's 11 p.m. You just checked your bank account for the third time today. The number hasn't changed, but you're still staring at it like maybe if you look hard enough, it will. Then you close the app, open Amazon, and buy something you don't need. Not because you're stupid, not because you don't know math, but because your brain just activated a circuit that's 200,000 years old. And you can't turn that off with a spreadsheet. You've probably heard the advice before. Just spend less than you earn, make a budget, stop the impulse buying. And you know that, you know it. But the cycle keeps going. Debt, payment. One step forward, two steps back. And the most frustrating part, you could be making more money than ever and still feel like there's no way out. Here's what nobody tells you. The problem isn't your discipline. The problem is a biological switch that got flipped without you knowing. And it's been making your financial decisions for you. That switch has a name, and it has a reset button. Here's what this video is going to show you. There's a brain state called financial survival mode. And when you're in it, and most people living paycheck to paycheck are in it most of the time, your brain literally loses the ability to make good money decisions. Not a metaphor, biology. And every financial decision you make while you're in that state is pushing you deeper into debt, not because you lack information, but because of a chemical reaction happening inside you right now as you watch this. The good news, there's a mechanism that pulls you out of that state in minutes. And you don't need willpower to use it. But first, you need to understand what's actually happening inside you. In 2013, two researchers from Harvard and Princeton ran an experiment that changed everything. We thought we knew about money and decision-making. They went to a shopping mall in New Jersey and gave people a hypothetical financial problem. An expensive car repair. For higher-income people, nothing happened. For lower-income people, something disturbing. Their cognitive scores dropped by the equivalent of 13 IQ points. 13 IQ points. That's the cognitive difference between you sleeping normally and you after a full night without sleep. And they hadn't spent any money, hadn't made any decision. They just thought about money. The simple act of feeling financial scarcity, even imagined, temporarily crippled their intelligence. Now imagine what's happening in your brain when you're genuinely living paycheck to paycheck. When your card gets declined at the grocery store. When you're doing the math in your head to see if you'll make it to Friday. Your brain isn't just stressed, it's operating at a fraction of its actual capacity. Here's what's happening biologically. When your brain detects scarcity, real or perceived, it activates the HPA axis. Your body's stress response system, that releases cortisol. And cortisol does one very specific thing to your brain. It suppresses the prefrontal cortex. That's the CEO of your brain. The part responsible for long-term planning, impulse control, rational decision-making. The part that knows paying 27% APR on a credit card is a terrible idea. The part that actually understands compound interest. The part that could genuinely plan a debt-free journey if you gave it a chance. And cortisol turns it off. In its place, the amygdala takes over, the primitive, reactive, survival-focused part. The part that thinks, I need relief now. The part that opens Amazon at 11 p.m. This is what I call financial survival mode. It's like a thermostat that was calibrated 200,000 years ago. Back when spending or consuming literally meant survival. When scarcity was a lion and you needed to act now, not next quarter. The problem is that thermostat is still running. And it can't tell the difference between lion on the savannah, an empty bank account. When it senses financial threat, it cranks the temperature up. And you start making impulse purchases, taking out high-interest loans, making decisions the version of you at 10 a.m. with a good cup of coffee would never make. And here's the cruelty of it. The more debt you accumulate, the more cortisol your brain releases. And the more cortisol, the worse your decisions get. It's a cycle designed to keep you trapped. But here's what changes everything. You cannot budget your way out of debt while your brain is in survival mode. Read that again. You cannot use the brain that is breaking your finances to fix your finances. That's why budgets fail, not because you don't understand math, but because you're building spreadsheets while the thermostat is still cranked up. You're trying to plan your retirement with the same brain that's panicking about tomorrow's rent. The solution isn't in your budget, it's in your nervous system. And the scary part, most people living paycheck to paycheck spend most of their financial day in some degree of financial survival mode. Not the full-blown panic of a crisis, just the low-level hum of constant financial stress that they've normalized. And that ambient cortisol temperature is enough to impair decision-making. Enough to make saving feel impossible. Enough to make spending feel like relief instead of a problem. You might be living in this state right now and calling it your personality. I'm just a spender. I can't control money. That's not personality. That's biology you haven't learned to reset yet. And without that reset, you can try every financial hack, every budgeting app, every envelope method in existence, and wake up 6 months from now with the same debt or more. Because the right strategy at the wrong neurological moment doesn't work. So what's the reset? 3 biological circuit breakers. Each one can lower your cortisol level within minutes. Enough for your prefrontal cortex to retake control before you make any significant financial decision. Circuit breaker 1, the 4-7-8 breath. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. This activates the vagus nerve, the parasympathetic nervous system, and literally signals to your body that the threat is over. In under 90 seconds, cortisol levels begin to drop. Neuroscience studies confirm this. It's not meditation philosophy, it's physiology. Rule: never open your banking app or make a purchase over $20 without first completing 2 cycles of this breath. Circuit breaker 2, the 15-minute wait. When you feel the urge to spend, especially when stressed, set a timer for 15 minutes. Don't block the impulse, just wait. Behavioral economics research shows that 80% of impulse purchases dissolve within that window. Why? Because cortisol has a half-life. And in 15 minutes, your prefrontal cortex starts returning to the driver's seat. Circuit breaker 3, the financial anchor. Before any stressful financial decision, spend 60 seconds visualizing a specific financial goal, not vague, specific. My emergency fund hitting $1,000, $0 credit card balance by March. This activates the prefrontal cortex and shifts the brain from survival mode into planning mode. This isn't positive thinking, it's deliberate neurological activation. The same mechanism that separates people who build wealth from people who endlessly manage financial stress. Together, these 3 circuit breakers do something no budgeting app can do. They change who is making your financial decisions. Not the cortisol, you, reacting to today's panic. The prefrontal cortex, you, planning tomorrow's freedom. Because your debt-free journey doesn't start when you find the right strategy. It starts when you stop making financial decisions with the wrong brain. There's something interesting about financial stress management that most people never notice. After using these resets consistently for a few days, not weeks, days, something shifts. Decisions get easier. The urge to spend impulsively drops. Not because you got stronger, because your thermostat is finally being recalibrated. And the lower your baseline cortisol, the clearer your decisions. And the clearer your decisions, the faster your progress toward getting out of debt. But here's what really fascinates me. The same mechanism keeping you trapped in debt. That same primitive thermostat is exactly what the most financially successful people in the world have learned to control deliberately. Why do you think the highest performing business leaders meditate daily? Why is focus on sleep and physical health so consistent among people who have genuinely mastered their finances? It's not wellness, it's neuroscience. They don't have more willpower than you. They learn to keep the thermostat low. Now you know how. If this changed how you see your financial stress, drop a comment below and subscribe if you want more of this kind of thing, where we explain money through the brain that actually makes decisions.